Hello, everyone, and welcome to Dreamleapers. I'm your host, Harriette Cole, and I am so excited. Today, I have a guest who has been my friend since we were very young people. We've been connected for a long time, and I'm so excited to have her here today. She is Dr. LaJerne Terry Cornish. She currently serves as the president of Ithaca College. She is a leader who understands that education is about more than just knowledge. It's about transformation, access, possibility, and the future. Exactly what we talk about here on Dreamleapers. LaJerne began her career in the classroom as a language arts teacher before rising through the ranks of academia to become a respected scholar, provost, and now president. Along the way, she broke barriers as the first African-American alumna at Goucher College to earn tenure and to chair the faculty, setting a standard of excellence and representation that continues to open doors for others. She was also named to the City and State of New York's Higher Education Power 100 for her contributions to both scholarship and community, ranking top 25 2 years in a row. Dr. Cornish is known not only for her leadership, but for her deep commitment to the human side of education. Her work reminds us that institutions do not change on their own, people change them. Today, we're going to discuss what it means to lead with intention, how institutions can better serve students of today, and why staying rooted in purpose is essential, especially in times of change. Dr. Cornish will reflect on leadership, legacy, and the responsibility that comes with shaping the future. Please join me in welcoming Dr. LaJerne Terry Cornish to Dreamleapers.
Hey there.
Hey. So you are in Ithaca and it's a warm day, you said. So this is a good thing.
Yes. It's in the 60s, which has been rare for us. So
yeah. So, this is Dreamleapers. I just have to go back to what was that dream that set you on the path of education from the start? When did you know that this was what you were to do?
my dream was to be the superintendent of the Baltimore City Public Schools. That was the dream. And along the way, there were some people who saw me, saw something in me, and opened doors that I didn't know were possible and made things possible for me that I had not dreamed. So again, the dream was to be the superintendent of Baltimore City Public Schools. Alice Pender Hughes was the person that I looked up to and the person I wanted to be most like.
And speaking of that, like we are obviously both from Baltimore. Baltimore had a very dynamic Black community of high achieving professionals from before we were even born, which is not was not always true in every city across the United States. But we had role models like Alice Pender Hughes and others who showed us not just Black people, but women who were in pioneering positions, who really showed us that anything was possible. Can you talk about that climate?
Well, I have to go back to church. So I was a member of Trinity Presbyterian Church in Northwest Baltimore. So the first Black woman that I knew who had a PhD was Dr. Nancy Bennett. And so she was in my church. And so I saw women in the church who were leaders in the community, but also in the educational sphere and realm. And again, once you see it, then you say to yourself, well, maybe I can be it.
Mm-hmm. And then your mother was a teacher, correct?
My mother was a teacher. My mother taught elementary school. She taught grades 3 and 4 in the Baltimore City schools as well. Yes.
Yeah, just like my mother was a kindergarten teacher. And at their time, there weren't many jobs that women could have. Like many women were teachers. I think some were nurses. But, there weren't that many professional jobs that felt open to women. So our mothers taught, and they taught little ones, which is so incredibly important. But what you have done is what our parents want us to do, far excelled above where your mother had her career, right? But I mean, that vision, it's like taking the baton that she held and taking it all the way up to president. That's something else.
Well, again, and if I can tell the story, I mean, you know a lot of this. When we were at Western, in the 12th grade, my history teacher said, LaJerne, where are you going to college next year? And I said, I'm not. And she said, what do you mean you're not? And I said, my mother is ill and I'm needed home. So I had not applied to college. She took me by the hand, took me to the main office in Western High School, made a call to Goucher College. She was a Goucher alumna. And she said, I've got a student who's great and needs to be in school, but her mother is ill, and so she won't be able to live on campus. She hasn't applied. Can she get an interview? And so she arranged for me to be interviewed. This was late in the game. I was interviewed, I was admitted, and I started Goucher in the fall of 1979. And my mother died the first day of finals, my spring semester. But that teacher opened a door for me. And then I had a professor at Goucher who saw me, pushed me, and stayed with me. And ultimately, at the end of the day, Eli Veldon, I have to tell this story. Dr. Veldon, when I graduated, he waited 9 years, and he called me. He said, LaJerne, it's time for you to get your master's degree. Goucher's starting a new MED program. You need to be in this program. I said, okay, Dr. Veldon. Applied, was admitted, got into that program. 4 years later, he called me again. He said, LaJerne, you need to be in a PhD program, but you also need to meet with the dean of the faculty at Goucher. And I said, okay. So he scheduled something for us to have lunch. I met with the dean, Dean Welch, at the time. And Dean Welch said, LaJerne, Goucher would like for you to come back and teach and someday take over the education department.
Wow.
I would need a PhD in order to do that. He said, we know, and we're willing to pay for it. So Goucher paid for me to get my PhD. I worked part-time. I worked full-time. I went to school part-time. And it took me 7 years to get it. But I have that PhD because Goucher said, we believe in you enough that we're going to pay for you to get this. And so I worked at Goucher for 20 years, rising from instructor to associate provost for undergraduate studies.
Okay. Look, guys, here's what I have to say to everybody who's tuned in. You can know somebody for almost your whole life and not know certain things. I mean, I do know that you got your PhD. I had no idea of this backstory. But what it points to, there's a woman, a broadcaster, Deborah Roberts. You may know who she is, Al Roker's wife. She wrote a book, compiled a book about 2 years ago. I don't recall the name of it, but it's a book of stories of the teacher who impacted your life, whoever the person was who's telling the story. All of us have that person. All of us have that teacher, that educator who could see what we may not have even seen ourselves in ourselves. And what you just described is someone who saw you. And not only who saw you and saw your potential, but the whole university ended up seeing you. That's amazing.
And greater still was, tenure is very important in higher education. You want to get tenure. Dr. Veldon gave up tenure so that I could be hired in the education department at Goucher College. He believed in me that much.
Now, what does that mean? Because there could only be a certain number of tenured professors at a time?
Correct. And so he gave up tenure and went half-time so that I could be hired full-time.
That's amazing and consistent, LaJerne. I hear these stories again and again about at whatever level it is in your education, in your life. It can be later in life too, but that there's somebody who sees you, who chooses to invest time, effort, and money into you, and the potential for the outcome is tremendous. And it doesn't have to be somebody who looks like you.
Correct.
So Goucher is where you chose to go to college. Tell me about what work were you doing before you began to work for Goucher? You were in the Baltimore City public school system, right?
Yes, so I taught middle school English language arts for 9 years. Then I was a coordinator for a program for at-risk youth for 4 years. Then I became an assistant principal for 2 years when I got the call from Goucher to come back. And when I became an assistant principal, I was promised a principalship within 2 years because, dream was principal and then superintendent, up the ranks. And so when Goucher made the offer, I remember going to see my principal, Dr. Craig Spillman. And I said, Craig, I have a decision to make. Goucher's offered me the opportunity to come back and teach. They're going to pay for me to get my PhD, but I want to be a principal in a couple of years. And he said, LaJerne, remember, you told me that there were no professors of color at Goucher when you were a student. Here you have an opportunity to be for others what you didn't have. You can come back and be a principal any day.
Anytime.
You can't go to Goucher and become a professor any day. I think you need to go. And so I'm grateful for that advice that he gave me back then.
That's amazing. Also, just thinking of your background when you describe being a language arts teacher for so long and then working with at-risk students. Right now I'm teaching journalism at FIT. And one of the things that I'm learning that's kind of disturbing actually is many students do not have a great facility with language, with writing, with punctuation, with grammar. I mean, I'm talking about basic language skills. And some of these are students who came out of so-called at-risk environments. Some are not. Some are really intelligent people who just don't have that skill. And what I'm hearing is that they're not taught it in high school. What do you think is happening in terms of what's going on?
I mean, so many things have changed, and we cannot deny the impact of the pandemic. So many students lost opportunities to learn. When you have to learn in your bedroom,
that's right.
It's a very different situation. And so, as I've said to my faculty and staff here, we need to meet our students where they are. Maybe some of the things that we need to do when students come in, walking in the door, have a boot camp of learning how to learn. Because we may have expectations of what they know how to do, and we may be making assumptions that are so wrong. So let's level the playing field where we can, provide opportunities for those who are ready to run, let them run. But for those who are learning how to walk or starting over or learning how to learn at the college level, let's provide opportunities for them as well. And so, but the pandemic, it impacted students in a lot of different ways, academically, socially, emotionally. And so that's what we're dealing with.
And we're still dealing with it. And so on your campus, you find that it's a critical issue?
Well, I find that students, my faculty will say that students are not coming in as prepared as they used to be. But I've lived long enough to know that we've said that about every generation of students that came before us. So I'm not discounting it wholesalely, but I know that that's something we always say.
I think that's a fair point. I also think that there's a bit of relaxation in our culture around precision in communication. And maybe part of that comes from texting. And the ways in which people communicate now that are, in 3 seconds, AI, which has its ups and downs and arounds, but the amount of times that I write something and autocorrect turns it into something that I had no idea, I don't even know where that word came from. I mean, there's a lot that we are dealing with today that we did not have when we were growing up. I mean, I guess it's always true, but the acceleration with technology, I think, can be helpful, but also can be a challenge.
So there's AI, but AI is meaningless without HI, human intelligence, okay? And so now is an opportunity for us in higher ed to double down on the liberal arts and sciences, which teach you how to think critically, creatively, and analytically. AI may autocorrect something, but you have to be discerning enough to be able to ask yourself, is this right? Okay, is this what I meant to say? And
Right.
so we are challenged in that way because for some folks, AI may be the go to, but the go to isn't always right. I'll say that on the one hand. On the other hand, our students are graduating and they're going into an AI powered workforce. And
Yes.
we have an obligation to make sure that our students have the skills that are ready for them to enter an AI powered workforce. So AI and HR, those things go hand in hand. It's a must.
I like that. Hey guys, this is Dreamleapers with Harriette Cole. We are talking with Dr. LaJerne Terry Cornish. She's the president of Ithaca College and my dear friend, and I'm so excited to learn from her in ways that you don't learn when you're just talking to your friend. um, the AI powered world. Okay, I want to dig into that a little bit more because I'm having this experience. I just had a kind of eye-opening, cold water in the face experience of, I'm teaching a writing class, so it's against the rules to use AI to write for you in my class anyhow. And
Why?
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 Because you're supposed to learn how to write.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to grade a machine. I don't want to grade somebody's a computerized brain.
Mm-hmm.
I want to teach you how to think and how to express your thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
There, you can use it for spell check. You can use it for those kind of things, but not to write a paper for you. In journalism class, not every class is that true, but in a writing class, it is not okay. And they know if they do it, they get a 0. Well, guess what? They're doing it.
So how do you turn that around and make it a teachable moment? Okay, so
I'm asking you, Dr. Cornish.
You used AI to write that paper. I know you did. Now, let's use our HI and let's deconstruct this paper. Okay? Which ideas were yours? Which ideas were generated by the machine? Sometimes students need what I'm going to say a little prompt to get the words coming out, flowing, okay? AI can sometimes give them that prompt to let them go on their own. One of my writing professors had students use AI to write a paper, then had AI grade that paper, okay? And the students saw that AI didn't grade their paper very well, and then they had to figure out, yes. So they had to figure out why AI downgraded them, and then they had to edit the paper and make the corrections and revisions based on what AI recommended for grading them down. So there are ways to use this as a teachable moment and to make it work.
Okay, I will be playing this back so that I can really study it because it's daunting to me, and again, I think this has to do as well with generationally, I didn't grow up with this. This is new. It's new for everybody.
Right.
And especially the usage. And to your HI component, how do you get people to think? How do you get people to literally use their brains, trust that the thoughts coming out of their being are worth it, and that the computer is not necessarily smarter than they are, that it isn't human. And I do understand, especially if you have all these classes and a lot of pressure, if you can use something to help you, then you think, oh, this is a great thing. It's a challenge.
The calculator was a challenge. Come on, think back. Come on. So, when the calculator came out, people said, well, they can't do math anymore. You can't use a calculator, in your math class. Well, come on.
And a lot of people can't do math anymore.
But what I need us to know is that AI is a tool. That's all it is. It's a tool. So how do we best use this tool to solve problems and to solve them quickly, to give us more time to do this, to look at one another, to have more time in relationship with one another? AI can free up some things for me so that I can spend more time with students. Just something to think about, something to consider.
Well, I'm glad I asked you about that because I'm sure I stand with a whole lot of other professors who are going, "What am I doing? What can I do? How?" And so this is excellent. I will be taking this back to my students after I unpack it a little bit more. Let's talk about your journey to get to where you are today. The to be a college professor, to be a college professor of a predominantly white institution as a woman of color is no small feat. I mean, first of all, do you know how many women of color are college presidents in the United States today?
I do not, but I know enough to know it's a small percentage. Let me put it that way.
And what did it feel like it took for you to get to this role?
I tell people that I did the work. So, I went from being an instructor. That's the level you start at when you don't have a PhD. Okay.
Mhm.
So I was an instructor. Then I earned the degree and I became an assistant professor. And then I earned tenure and became an associate professor. I am not a full professor, so let me be clear there. I'm not a full professor. Some
What
people
does that
say
even mean for people who don't understand?
you get tenured after 7 years, and then with additional teaching, scholarship, and service, you come up again to become a full professor. You know, I went to Goucher at a time when, in order to be tenured, you were required to do scholarship, service, and teaching. But you could be excellent in one or two of those things. And so I chose teaching as my area of excellence. I was born a teacher. I'm Dolores Terry's daughter. That thing is in my DNA. And so I have not published very little, but I haven't, pardon me, I have not published a lot, but I published enough to meet the threshold. And then my service, part of being a woman of color at a PWI, you have service that you do all the time. You become the unofficial mentor and advisor to students who look like you. And so teaching and service were my calling and remain that way still because I teach as a president, not physically in a classroom, but I'm teaching every day when I interact with students. So to go back, I achieved associate professor, then I became the department chair for the education department. And then I became the faculty chair, the faculty of the whole. So I was the chair of the entire Goucher faculty, and I served in that role for 4 years. And then I became the associate provost for undergraduate studies. And then I left Goucher in 2018, applied to be provost at two different schools, one in upstate New York, which is where I am, and one in Minnesota, of all places. I must be attracted to the cold. I don't understand it, but nonetheless, I became the provost at Ithaca College, and then 3 years into being the provost, the president left and took a new job. She became the CEO of College Track, which is an organization dedicated to helping first generation and underrepresented students get through college with as little debt as possible. And they start working with students in grade 9, and they follow them for 10 years. And I proudly say that our Baltimore Ravens and M&T Bank of Baltimore donated $20 million, $10 million each, to open a College Track Baltimore, which is sponsored by, again, the Ravens and M&T Bank. So Baltimore City youth will be brought into College Track in grade 9 through an application process and followed through college. So it's a beautiful thing.
That is.
And then once my predecessor, Dr. Collado, left to go to College Track, I became the interim president for the 21-22 academic year while the college conducted a national search for their next president. And on March the 7th, 2022, I was named the 10th president of Ithaca College. Was that the plan? No, but God does what God does, and there's nothing we can do about it.
And the timing is uncanny. I mean, you were interim as the country was struggling in the depths of the pandemic and trying to get out of it.
Mhm.
this is a time when, at least at the beginning of it, students weren't even coming to school, were they?
Well, so we shut down March the 14th of 2020, your birthday.
Yep.
Students were on spring break, and we were like, oh no, they can't come back.
Right.
And so we went remote in March of 2020. We were fully remote for the fall of 20, and then we went hybrid in the spring of 21. And so it was a very difficult time. When we shut down, Ithaca College had 20 classrooms that were capable of streaming. Okay.
20.
20. Okay. Today we have over 250 spaces on campus that are capable of streaming. What the pandemic did for us was it made us embrace technology much, much more quickly than we had before. And so I name that as a benefit of the pandemic. I do.
And well, that's actually, turning lemons into lemonade, right? You figure out what are you going to do with the reality that you're in as a college president. So first of all, as a provost, because you've talked to me about that before, you're really dealing with the students. As a president, the health of the institution is on you. The financial health of the institution is on you. When fewer people are coming to school, and I'm sure that at most colleges and universities, enrollment went down because you can't be together, and it's just different. How did that impact you as you are coming in to this? It's a new role in a crisis.
Well, the provost is the chief academic officer. So,
right.
You're dealing with academics. The president is the face of the institution. And you're right. Vision, mission, values, finances. Just to give you a glimpse of this, in the fall of 2018, we enrolled 1,666 students were incoming first-year students. In the fall of 19, we had 1,506 incoming students. In the fall of 2020, we had 995 students. So if you could think about that, a 600 student drop, okay? And you carried those students for 4 years. So there was a financial impact of having 600 fewer students for 4 years. And so what we have been doing ever since then is, expanding the top of the funnel, as we call it, getting more applications again to get more students knowing about Ithaca College. Proudly I say, a year ago at this time, we had 12,000 applications to IC. Today we have 14,800 applications to Ithaca College. And so we are turning things around, but it's not something that happens overnight. And my institution was not the only one impacted by lower enrollments. So, it's happened in many other places, but there are other institutions that have benefited from what happened, as a result of the pandemic. I look at HBCUs and their enrollments are booming, and that's a beautiful thing. And so, it's a continual dance. That's what it is. And so we're still dancing, and, we've had some financial challenges. Let me be clear. We are operating with a budget deficit right now. But by FY28, which is the 27-28 school year, we will be completely out of that deficit. And so we've worked through it. It has not been easy, but it has been worthwhile.
So I'm fascinated by the role that you are in and the things that you've had to learn. I mean, as you talk about, it's in your DNA to be a teacher, to engage with the students, to inspire their minds and all of those things, to run finance, to all of that is like, it's a whole nother world. So let me remind folks, this is Dreamleapers with Harriette Cole. We are talking to my friend, Dr. LaJerne Terry Cornish. She is the president of Ithaca College, and we're getting an inside view as to what it means to be a president right this minute. So really, how do you gain those skills?
You hire excellent people, Harriette.
There you go.
That is what you do. You hire excellent people. people. My team, I've hired excellent people. You don't want to go around and hire people who are like you. You want to hire people who are nothing like you, who have the skills that you don't have, and you trust them to do the work that you know they need to do. I know enough about budget to know that I need to have my revenue to be greater than my expenses. And so what has been our challenge for the last several years is that our expenses have been greater than our revenue. Mm. That's on the one side. That's the operational side. But when I look at the long-term health of the institution, our endowment is sound. Our cash reserves are sound. And so I'm not worried about that. I've just got to get our expenses and revenue in line. And I also say we must constantly align the size of our faculty and staff with the size of our student body. Mm-hmm. So do I have fewer faculty? Yes. Do we have fewer staff? Yes, because we are a smaller institution than we were when I arrived. But as long as we align our faculty and staff with the size of our student body, we will be budget positive. And that's what we're working toward.
That's beautiful. Tell us about some of the distinguished graduates of Ithaca College, because I think it's a pretty interesting, noteworthy group of folks that have come out of your school. Who are some of those people?
I think the most famous, Bob Iger, Disney, graduated from Ithaca College. David Muir, ABC World News Tonight, graduated from Ithaca College. Ed Glazer, owner of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, graduated from Ithaca College. We have a noted school of music, theater, and dance. 2 years ago, there were 32 shows on Broadway, and we were 32 for 32. There was an Ithaca College alum in each one of those productions. Wow. Acting, producing, stage management, but this is something else that we are known for. And so I can't list, but I also need to say this, sometimes we focus on the famous alums. I have more alums who are not famous and successful than who are famous. And so I'm just proud to say that we have more than 70,000 living alums who have done great things, and we are proud of all of them. And we're grateful for those who have done well and, give us some PR as well, because they graduated from this place.
It's interesting always to hear who the graduates are of different schools and, what they've done with their lives. And also, I'm sure gratifying when they are alum who remain interested in the institution. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So do you build relationships with those folks?
I sure do. Just last week, I was in New York City, missed you because I was busy every day, and had a chance to go to CNN. The current executive vice president for CNN is Eric Shirley. He's responsible for U.S. programming, and Eric is an Ithaca College alum. Last week, he invited 15 Ithaca College students to come to CNN, students from our Park School of Communication. So they got a chance to see what's happening there. They got a chance to visualize where they might be someday. I left CNN, and the next day I went to talk to David Muir at ABC Studios. David reminded me of a student that I saw 3 years ago when I first met David. And the student's name is Linus, and Linus was interning at ABC's World News Tonight. Well, when I visited last week, Linus is now working for ABC's World News Tonight.
Love when that happens.
These are the things that excite us, and as we see them develop and go on to do great things.
What percentage of your student body is from other countries?
We don't have a lot of international students, so I would say our international population is closer to 4%.
Oh, so then you haven't really been impacted the way some schools have by the doors closing, let's say, or for immigrant students coming over?
Not to the degree that other institutions have been, because we have not relied heavily on international students, although we have international students here. But again, the population is not as large as some of those other places.
What is the relationship that Ithaca College has to Cornell, which is nearby, Ivy League school, obviously bigger? What is the ecosystem like that includes the two of you?
Well, we share a town, and we are large employers of people in the town. We have a wonderful relationship. President Mike Koplikoff and I know each other, and we go back a little ways because Mike and I were both provosts at the same time. And so he became the interim president, and he is now the president of Cornell. So he's been there longer than I've been here, but nonetheless, we have a wonderful relationship. Ithaca College students can take courses at Cornell, so they can take up to 2 courses a year through an exchange program. But we say that Ithaca College is Ithaca's college. And so, we regard ourselves as a resource for the community. And not that Cornell doesn't, but we're 2 different kinds of institutions. As you said, they are an Ivy League institution. We are what we call a comprehensive institution. We are rooted and grounded in the liberal arts and sciences tradition, yet and still we have 4 professional schools as well. And what makes us different is that professional education is often relegated to graduate school. Yeah. But here at Ithaca College, you can get professional education as an undergraduate student.
So what is I remember when I came up there, you had, I think, just opened a section of the school anyhow for physician's assistants, which, when we look at the world of work, one of the areas that is noted as still having jobs is generally in the healthcare field, but especially that role. And you had opened a special part of your school for that. Can you talk about that?
So we started a PA program, and we went back downtown. So Ithaca College started in 1892 as a music conservatory, and we were housed in downtown Ithaca. Our PA space is back downtown, so we wanted to go back to our roots. The PA program, we started in year 1, we enrolled 30 students. Year 2, 40 students. Year 3, 50 students, with the goal of bringing in 50 students a year. Right now, we have over 800 applications for anywhere from 35 to 50 spots a year. So the program is doing very, very well, and we're excited about creating new PAs because the medical field needs PAs. But something that's, what I think special about our program is that our emphasis is on rural and behavioral health. Because, rural folks need care. And behavioral health, we don't have enough people who are practitioners who
deal with. What does that even mean? What is behavioral health?
Psychological services, helping, with counseling, and the like. And so how to, adjust behaviors, if you will. And so, but being a counselor, and so we need lots of counseling services in our area. And there's just not enough people to fill the need. And so creating PAs who can serve in that role, we think is meeting the needs of our community as well in upstate New York.
That's really interesting. Again, I'll go back to when we were growing up, mental health was something that was whispered about, if at all. You did not go to a therapist, you did not go to a psychiatrist, you did not go to the doctor for that. You went to church, you prayed about it, or you just, and a lot of people self-medicated. But today there is a lot more openness, I think, across generations, but especially for young people. If they have a problem, that they will seek help for it. And I'm wondering, in your population of students, how would you rank mental health and the stability among students? Also thinking about what happened as a result of COVID. I mean, there are a lot of factors that have impacted the fragility of a lot of people. But I'm just curious as to what your student body population is dealing with.
So going back to what you said, we are more comfortable today saying that we need help. Okay. Yes. So we have counseling services available on our campus. And so students have access right here. We also have online services as well, protocols. So there's a way you can make a phone call to say, hey, I need some help. We are more comfortable today saying, I need help than we were in our generation or even our parents' generation. And so making that available, you're just acknowledging your humanness. And so getting the services you need to help you be successful is a part of what we provide.
And there's this other very prickly topic in this regard when a student might say, oh, I can't do this, I can't do that because I'm having a crisis. And sometimes it's real and sometimes it's not. And how does an instructor help students when they may be relying on something as a crutch to say it when it may or may not be so? How do you help people to have your full life, to take care of yourself, to get the services you need, but not to create a crutch situation?
Well, we have something here called I Care. So when we see a student is struggling, professor may write a referral to our I Care. We have case managers who will check up on students. We have peer supporters for our students as well, peer mentors, we have RAs. So we have many touch points throughout the day, both inside and outside the classroom, to just say, hey, are you okay? And then at the end of the day, you are ultimately responsible for getting your work done. And so if you don't get it done, there's a grade consequence associated with that too. So you gotta, as I say, you gotta handle your business, because if you don't, you may not be here. And so that's a reality as well.
Is this a new level of training or sensitivity that you think is something that you've brought to the school, this awareness of the many touch points?
No, I think it was always here. I think what we've done a better job of is centralizing some of these things. And so we have an academic support center. Okay, we have the Center for the Exploration of Career Development. And so we've developed different centers across campus where we are trying to make things more of a one-stop shop, so the students don't get referred to this person and that person and that person. And so when you have one place to go, more often than not, you're going to get your needs met.
Speaking of career development, one of the things that young people have always talked about, so this is not new, but here we are again when students are graduating going, OMG, how am I going to find a job? The economy is tentative, and my field, which I thought was going to be so great, I don't see any jobs in my field. I mean, we hear this a lot across many different disciplines. What is Ithaca College doing to support students as they are graduating and looking for work?
One of the things I love about this place is the Center for Career Exploration and Development. Most students wouldn't visit the Career Center until their senior year. I need to write a resume. And that 9 times out of 10, that's what brought students to the Career Center. Our Center for Career Exploration and Development invites students to come in their first year. We're looking at this as a developmental opportunity. What career skills, activities do you need to start practicing in year 1, so that by the time you get to year 4, 5, or 6, depending upon your degree program, you will be ready to go out into that world. So I think that's something that we do really well. Experiential learning is the hallmark of the Ithaca College experience. We say hands-on day 1. Our mission is to educate, engage, and empower through theory, practice, and performance. What does that mean? It means we educate, engage, and empower through learning, trying, and doing from day 1. When I met with Eric Sherling at CNN last week, he said, LaJerne, when I went to Ithaca College, students said, I hope I can get an internship at the Today Show. And he said, I told them, if you go to Ithaca College, you can create your own Today Show. And so that's what's different about us. We put equipment in students' hands walking in the door. Again, hands-on day 1. So experiential learning is a part of our DNA. And so our students have many opportunities to engage and have experiential learning opportunities. Let me give you this data. So 86% of our students have 2 experiential learning experiences or more before they graduate. And then 91% of our graduates have a job or go to graduate school after commencement. And so we're doing some great
That's a
things.
celebration right there. That's something that says a lot, because that is the bottom line when people graduate, is what in the world am I going to do, and how am I going to be able to take care of myself and pursue my dreams. It's real. Hey guys, this is Dreamleapers with Harriette Cole. We have 5 minutes left. Can you believe it? We're talking with Dr. LaJerne Terry Cornish. She's the president of Ithaca College, and even more important for me, my dear friend. LaJerne, I want to talk about your dreams. So you are now president of the college. You've been in this role for a few years. What, I guess in 2 ways, what are your dreams for your students, and what are your dreams for yourself?
You know, when I came here as provost, as a Black woman, as a queer Black woman, let me just put it out there, students looked at me and they said, wow, we never thought we'd see somebody like you in this position. When I became the president, same students were like, President Cornish, we just want you to know how much it means to us that you are in this role. I'm the president for all students. I want all students to feel seen, heard, and valued. It gives me such joy to walk through the halls, engage with students, speak with them, talk to them, invite them to the house, have open office hours for students. My open office hours have been filled for the last 3 weeks. The students are like, we just want to talk. Can we come see you? Absolutely, you can come and see me. So what my dream is for students to look at me and say, wow, this is possible. I needed to see it. And because I saw it someplace else, well, as God would have it, I'm able to do this. And so I see an amazing future for Ithaca College moving forward. I inherited an institution that had a budget deficit. And when we come out of this, and when we become the first destination for more and more students, I want the 11th president of Ithaca College say to me, thank you for being a good steward and giving us something that we can build on and continue to grow for generations of students to come. That is what I want to be my legacy.
Well, that's a profound legacy. And you have a son who is also an educator. Tell us about him, and this family legacy continues.
So my son, Wayne Cornish Jr., graduated from Ithaca College with a degree in music, concentration in vocal performance. He joined us in Ithaca 2 years ago, no, 3 years ago now. In his first year, he taught music in the middle school. He was the choral teacher and had a great time. But at the end of the year, he looked at me and he said, Mommy, I'm not the teacher, you are. Wayne is still working in the middle school today, but now he's a behavior specialist. So he's the one who comes to get the student who needs some time away, but also to get back into the classroom. So he works with students to talk about their behavior and then what they need to do to go back into the classroom and to be successful. So he's very happy here and he's really good at what he does. He's also my son who's the artist. So he paints, he dances, he sings, he does all of those things. And as I've always said to him, do what you love and the rest will take care of itself. And I think my life is a testament of doing what I love and the rest has taken care of itself.
So when is the book coming?
Well, you know, I've thought about it. And so there's an outline, but right now I have work to do. I've got to get us back to where we need to be with this amazing team of professionals that I have the opportunity to work with every day. But when the time is right, it will come because I do believe I have a story to tell.
There's no question about that. There's no question about that. Thank you so much for joining us, inspiring others with your story. I mean, proof that, yes, a vision is important, and also that support, having people around you who see you, who support you, is just as important. I'm so proud of you. Congratulations on all that you have done, and thank you for sharing it with us.
Thank you, my sister, and good to see you.
You as well.
Talk to you soon.
All right. And thank you to all of you for joining in. I hope you are as inspired as I am. I learned a lot. It's different to interview your friend than when you're just talking. So this was really great. Until next time, have a great day and make it count.